It's the May 2026 show with Lori from Purposely Unplugged. Lori, how are you today?
Wonderful. The weather's turning great. We can be outside. The birds are back. All's good.
All is good. Now, I'm going to pick your brain because I'm curious if you got to read my article, if you've seen my article, I guess I should say, because I think it really resonates with what you're talking about today. And boy, when you brought this, when you sent me the email with the topic, I was like, damn, we got to talk about this because it's so important. Recovery and resilience are two words that mean a heck of a lot to me. And with my little expedition I had when my van broke down and my cell phone got run over and all those things that life will throw at you at once, it's a couple pieces that I've sort of come over these last 60 years to sort of help define me being able to bounce back and understand the situation you're in.
Absolutely. And the book I picked after reading that was What Happened to You. So this is Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey. It is a lovely read, Dave. If someone doesn't have this book, it's a very easy read, talking about our childhoods, how we grew up, the trauma that we absorbed, lived through, coped with, and how it just imprints us neurally from a neural response, our brain response. And his work is phenomenal as well. But resilience, that's what you showed in that day, Dave. When I read that and when I thought about that, and I've thought about it since, we all have these days that can break us or build us. And this book is about building.
And I think too, in that article, I talk about different people and their life structures and how they see the world. And I thought that that was one of those components too, because I found myself being resilient in believing that there are still positive aspects of people out there that I appreciate. And I think that was another part of it that made me think, you know, you can go through all those things that happen, the van breaking down, the phone getting run over. But if you run into the right people at the right time, it makes a big difference when those situations occur.
The piece that I can bring to that is positive social connections. There are
Yeah.
folks that just help us breathe. There are folks that just give us that bit of laughter. You and I know that every time we talk, we laugh before we record and we laugh after we record. That's just who we are. But if you look at psychology today, Libby Ma has an article in April, so just recently, about resilience and just the characters and pieces that can help build resilience, like regulation skills, self-care, life-work balance, self-compassion, finding meaning, building on our strengths. But she ends her list of ways to build resilience by surrounding ourselves with positive social connections. And that's what you're talking about. In those worst moments of our lives, there are likely people around us that can help lift us up.
You brought up something earlier that I want to expand on a little bit because I'm kind of curious with this point. You and I are roughly the same age. You're a little bit younger than I am, not by much. But the point was, we grew up in a different era. So I wonder, comparative to when you and I grew up, our resilience was manufactured because of different situations that you would see today's generations, today's kids dealing with. Is there a is there a rollover to that effect, or was the situation we were in so different that it's a different set of rules now? Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. But that's a whole nother podcast if we want to look
I
at it.
know, but I'm just curious if you
Yes.
saw it too. Okay.
Absolutely. And what I'd add to that is intergenerational trauma. We learn things from our grandparents and our parents that become who we are. That's a lot what Bruce Perry talks about, that our childhood and how we're imprinted by those folks and by the connection from those folks. Absolutely. So it's different. But we also live in a different generation right now where we can do everything we need to do on a cell phone. Like
Well,
yours that got run over
yeah,
by the truck. You could not
yeah.
do anything because your
No,
phone was run over by a truck. So it's different. You're right. So the generation of kids that we see now think differently, respond differently because of the interaction with the folks around them and technology. The example I can give was my own son. When he was about 15, I said, let's go to the movies. I got out the phone book to call the movie theater to see what was playing. And behind me, he said, well, let's go see this, Mom. And I'm like, how'd you know that? He Googled it, found it in his phone, and had the answer before I could even do it. So that, I mean, he's now 26 or 7 or something like that. And look at the generation of my grandson now and how differently they think. absolutely, technology has changed who we are, but intergenerational trauma is part of this too.
And I wonder because when you said that, the situation that I got in, like we talked about with the cell phone getting run over, there was no panic
Yeah.
because I had lived without it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
It's
And I knew, "Oh, I'll just have to do it this way," right? So I think there's that aspect when I look forward now to kids. And I'm gonna add a third aspect to that whole conversation because I told you this once before, there was a gentleman I was in Quebec City with last fall who was almost 80, had no cell phone, and we're in this huge mall, and I was going to do something with Monica, and he was going off on his own. I said, "Well, how will I find you?" He goes, "Don't worry about it. I'll find you." And an hour and a half later, sure enough, we did our thing, he did his, and we met up. There wasn't any problem, and I went, "Oh, that's another generation who he doesn't have that worry of the cell phone." You know what I mean? Like, to come full circle, he doesn't worry about it. It's not a thing to him. So you're right, when you step it through those generations, you see these different, aspects of how it controls us. We're getting off topic, I know, but I just thought that was such a great example of 3 different eras of how it affects our daily lives and how that resourcefulness or that recovery you can do it if you've learned other ways in the past, I guess.
Absolutely. And not only learned ways in the past, but the book talks about building new paths for the future. So,
Ah,
in
yeah,
looking at this, sure, we're all influenced by where we've been, what's happened to us, how we've coped, how we've not coped. But the book really brings to light how to rebuild, how to move forward, and how to have a solid foundation. Every behavior, if you look behind it, there's meaning. We just need to see the meaning behind it before we look at the behavior. Now, a lot of this book is about child development. So if someone's interested in that, this is a good book
yeah,
to look at that. But we also learn from all these things that happen to us from our experience. We learn to bury our feelings. We learn we're not heard. We're not important. It doesn't matter. He talks about people pleasing. This is page 35. If you have the book, he talks about people pleasing, how that shifts our brain. And then we either live with that as a coping strategy or we rebuild it and find some new strengths.
let's go a little deeper there. So for the folks that maybe not know what we're talking about here, the people pleasing, explain that aspect so that people can sort of draw on it.
Sympathetic nervous system, fight, flight, freeze. We all know fawn is people pleasing. So we've talked about this in other podcasts. So I'm
Oh
glad it's
yeah,
coming up again. But in sympathetic nervous system, we are always trying to decide: am I safe? Am I not safe? Is this okay? Is this not okay? In the city, like even when you had no communication, am I safe? Am I not safe? Your nervous system answered that for you. So
yeah.
in all reality, when we're talking about this, fight, flight, freeze, fawn is people pleasing. So in a conflict situation, am I safe or not? Some people err too. If other people are okay, then I'm going to be okay.
The stability that's created around you. And with the progressive, like when you're talking about kids today and new communication paths, I almost think you have to step back a bit to take the phone or the iPad out of the way for a minute so they can see that the communication paths are different. Like there's other alternative paths to just technology.
Absolutely. And there's actually a section, now I didn't highlight the page, but there's a section in there about body language because we know that so much of our communication patterning is from body language. But the next generation of kids are being raised by parents who are potentially looking at a phone 90% of their time.
Right. That's a good
So,
point.
as adults, when we have children around us, I really challenge myself to put the phone away and just not have it as part of the conversation so that the body language part of my communication gets through to the little people that I'm with.
What would you say, in your opinion, what would be for resilience? What is there a certain aspect of it that you see that people need to experience to understand it? Like
That's a tricky question because some people
everybody's
get,
different.
well, they get locked in their response and they don't see it, which is why they have maladaptive behavior and sometimes end up in a therapeutic relationship, such as mine. Or other people do see it, they're aware, and they begin to build strategies to correct it, which might take someone in our lives, right? These are those people in our lives that bring these things to us because likely we don't see it or identify it ourselves. It's been our coping mechanism. But ways to do that, yes, there's There's lots in this book. This is page 183 to 200. Ways for us to rebuild new neural pathways, to rebuild new associations in the brain, and those connecting to calm, being outside, rhythm, dance, drums, and music. You know how important drums are to
Yeah.
me. So I smiled and highlighted that page. That's page 200. But then the third thing that they're talking about is looking at our values, looking at our beliefs, the stories that tell us who we are, and rebuild our neural systems based on those positive things.
And you said to tell us who we are in that aspect. I find that, and this might be another show too. I find that a lot of folks don't know who they are. They think they do, but they're, because of this, the phone, it's a false sense of who they are. So, I mean, that's got to be another part where they're, recovering resilience again, because you have to figure it out, folks. Like you can't live a lie, but I do see that a lot.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I'm actually going to marry those two ideas, the cell phone technology, who we've become in the face or the mask to other people, but then
Right.
also this people pleasing thing where we're not true to our own needs. We're not using our own voices. We don't make our own decisions because someone who's locked in that people pleasing, fawning kind of state of mind are doing things to make other people happy, not themselves, whether it's what they want or not. So good point. And yes, maybe it's another story. Maybe we can keep talking, but the stories people tell us, the stories we tell ourselves, like I'm not important. It doesn't matter. My needs don't matter. That all falls under the people pleasing. It's shifting that, making your own decisions, having your own decisions.
It's funny too, because when you say that, you will see people that may be in that fawning mode, trying to please other people, but they feel like if they try and do something for themselves, they're being selfish.
Yes. Or wasting
So they
time.
can't, right? Or it's like, well, you know, I'm not going to say that because I don't want to upset this person, but it's not realistic of what the expectations are long term if they're not being grounded enough to say what is truly on their mind.
Exactly. And so much of my work is around polyvagal system, the sympathetic nervous system. All of these topics are what I talk about all the time. So when I read your story and I linked it to this book, and now I can reflect that this is what I do all day, every day. And the kind of work that I do is reflective of this as well. Being around positive people, getting a new set of skills, developing new skills, really that's where resilience and growth take place.
Yeah, I agree 100%. How do people get a hold of you? And what is it you do again?
Phone is always best, 226-934-7425. I work outside, off grid, a lot of my day, so I don't have a laptop with me. I do have a Brantford office if people want to be in a typical office, but I like working outside. So off grid, Adirondack chairs. The weather's getting nice, so we could be outside. And the business name is Purposefully Unplugged. And the therapeutic approach I've developed is very unique, purposefully unplugged.
Thanks for doing this. Great to catch up.
Have a good day.